Breakfast with Bob.
Oh, welcome to Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by the PTO, the Pro Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, by VeloFix, the world's coolest mobile bike shops, by Normatech, by Form Goggles, by UCAN, and by our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Nothing better than hearing Poncho Man brings us back to being in Kona for our annual excursion there. Our next guest, one of my favorite people on the planet. He is, we're talking an Olympic rower, we're talking professional bike racer, we're talking winner of Ironman Italy, we're talking guy who finished 5th in Kona last year, and he's back racing for Team Ineos, Mr. Cam Wurf. Cam, how you doing, bud?
Hey, Bob. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's that intro. I love coming on your show. It makes me feel really good about myself because my intro, seems to sort of sound better and better every time I come on. It's really great. Hopefully, we can keep that up for a few more years.
You keep winning stuff, man.
Yeah, that's a good way to improve my introduction for the show. So yeah.
So I don't know how many other people just in the last few months you win Ironman Italy, you get 5th in Kona, do an ITU race, right? You raced ITU.
Yeah.
You sort of forget about that.
Yeah. Well, no, it was a good experience. I got absolutely belted. It was amazing energy. I mean, the energy of the race, just leading up to it, the athletes. I mean, it's such high octane, and I'd been warned, but nothing can prepare you for it until you're actually in it. And it was great. I loved the experience, and certainly made me hungry to go back and do better next time.
So how hard was? I mean, you train to go 112 miles on the bike and run a marathon, and getting out with those guys, getting out with the ITU guys, and just going full gas. How hard was that?
I wouldn't really say that I found out because I got dropped quite well. I lost 800 meters in the swim before they dropped me, and unfortunately, when I did drop off the pack, which we were surprised that I survived that long, but what then was the biggest shock was how much time I lost once I was dropped. I lost a minute and a half, 2 minutes in 800 meters. I mean, they're just flying, and I can fight, and it probably shows highlights. I am actually a pretty good racer, and in Ironman, that's why I've been pretty competitive in the swim because I can hang in there, and then really make the most of that draft. But in this, once they got the gap, they were just gone, and I never got back in the race. It was absolutely everything I had to stay on the lead lap on the bike and then not get lapped on the run. I was just, for me, it was a real achievement to actually finish and not get pulled out. So, it was. Yeah, I definitely knew exactly where that was. And there was only one spot left when I got back in there off the bike. So, but no, it wasn't quite that bad. But, the thing is, in retrospect, but I mean, we didn't have a choice. I needed to do a race, and that was sort of the timing of it. Was focused on Kona and got through that, and then tried to reset. I mean, it's sort of like the worst possible time to try and change your muscle makeup, I guess, as far as a race goes. A few weeks after, well, I'd done 2 Ironmans at a reasonably high level, and there's obviously an element of fatigue to that, and fast twitch muscles is the last thing that's gonna come back. So I probably didn't give myself too many chances to do well, and that's why. But I learned so much just from being there, and I'm a huge fan of sport, as you know. I love competing. Doesn't really matter. And it was just a real privilege to even be there and see those guys at top level. I mean, the Americans, of course, dominated. First and second, and it might have been top 3. It was really impressive. So I'll have another crack. And the Olympics have been postponed, Bob. So people sort of. Yeah, they certainly made fun of me and, had a bit of a joke and a laugh, but you never know who might have the last laugh. We'll see what happens next year.
Well, especially if you end up doing Ironman World Championship, the Tour de France, and the Olympics. Now, so Talk about that. All of a sudden, you're back bike racing again. You come off your best finish ever in Kona. And then when did the decision come that, you know what, I'm going to jump back into being a pro cyclist again?
Yeah, well, it was sort of a bit of a, common circumstance of events after Kona. I was actually, I've been obviously involved with the team a lot over the last few years, and they've obviously looked after me, with all my contracts and everything else. And Dave Brailsford, the last couple of years, there's been a lot of chopping and changing at the team, with Sky leaving and then obviously Ineos starting and that program developing. And Dave Brailsford, after, at the end of this year, he had a sort of a look at it and what my role had been in amongst the guys. I've obviously become more integrated in the team. And in December, they have a whole team camp. It's the only time of the year where every rider is at the camp. And I'd never been to that one before. I'd been to a lot of individual ones with G. As you know, I was in LA with G. I've been the years, and obviously a lot with Froomey and so forth. And Dave asked me to go to the camp with the entire team in December. And I guess it was probably just to sort of see how I actually fit in with everyone. And yeah, I mean, it was just like it had been on all the small camps. I'd sort of knew all the guys anyway, individually, and I fit in quite well with the team. And on the last day, Dave and I sat down, and they actually had a full roster. They had 30 riders at that moment, and we just sort of discussed the possibility that down the road, it was probably looking more like next year, of me, taking a sort of a substitute role in the team, in that I'd always be on call. I spent so much time around the team. I fit in well with the guys, and so when they are a rider short, for a race, instead of having to call in someone that's already got a predetermined program, they could just call me in to fill that gap, and it doesn't have that trickle-on effect of affecting other riders, through the roster. And we sort of left it at that. It was great. I was, focused on Kona again this year, and obviously racing Ironman and triathlon in general, and left. And then, we was in LA at the training camp in January, and I got a phone call third week of January, saying one of the riders had decided to stop, and we got a free spot, and we'd like you to take it and take up that role.
And we got a race next week.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to start racing in Australia next week. And so I rang you. I remember ringing you, and we were trying to get medical tests and everything done. And it was just such a rush. And in the end, it was actually just a bit easier to get to Australia and be able to, get it done there, just as far as timing wise goes, because of, you lose 2 days traveling. It was if we'd done all the tests there down in San Diego as we had planned it all, but then got some tests and then they needed to be redone or whatever, we would have lost some days. So I didn't have that time to mess around. So I jumped on the plane, got to Australia, had all the heart studies and everything, the blood exams, and fortunately I found out I was healthy and a professional cycling license, and
next thing you know,
now I'm back in the peloton. Yeah, so it was great.
And you hadn't raced what, 5 years?
I hadn't raced at the World Tour, for 5.5 years. Yeah, the last race I had was 2014, October 2014 in China, incidentally. So,
which doesn't exist anymore, right? That event's gone.
Even on Tour of Beijing, that's discontinued. And the race I started, it was a World Tour race, the Cadel Evans race, didn't exist either when I was racing. So all the guys would say, "Oh, you've done this one before?" I was like, "Boys, this wasn't even a race when I was around."
All of a sudden, you're feeling like the old guy.
Oh my God, I felt definitely like the old guy. It was, it was pretty cool. But I mean, as you know, I love sport and I love the NFL. Was following the playoffs, and the best story from the playoffs was that quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, who he started the season as an analyst with ESPN, and then he was coaching a high school football team, and then all of a sudden he's playing in the playoffs and nearly got them through to the championship game. So it was you just never say never, do you? Like you just never know when it's going to happen.
So you've been a triathlete for the last number of years, getting up at 3 in the morning to go to races, and now these events start at 11, and you can actually eat breakfast beforehand. And what was it?
Before night, there was actually a pool at the hotel. There was a 25-meter pool, and everyone was there that whole week because they'd been in the Tour Down Under the week before, and they'd all flown across to Melbourne. They'd been training at this hotel, and Richie and I for the last 3 days had been swimming in the afternoons. But race day, we went swimming that morning.
You swam before the race?
Yeah, with Richie. Yeah.
And then didn't you run afterwards?
Yeah. Then after this, I did the race, and then afterwards, the plan was, or the deal was, if I did race with the team, that if it was possible, at the end of a one-day race or the end of a stage race, I had to run a minimum half marathon, more if possible. And conveniently, the finish of the race was about 22K from the hotel. So all the other guys rode their bikes, and I set off on foot. But I got lost, and I ended up running 30K.
Laughing their butts off when you got there.
Yeah, it definitely broke the ice, and it was sort of, I guess, dispelled any doubts as to what the objective was. The objective is 100% to try and continue to win Kona. My quest to win Kona. I mean, it's what I dream of doing. It's what gets me up every morning, and this is a way that I can be of service to the team, be of use to the team. But also, that level of intensity and the high, the high power spikes and that different physiology required to race a push bike will help me. Whatever, all these things in the past have helped me do Ironman, obviously, because I don't come from a triathlon background. So going back and topping up on that, we also haven't ruled out rowing. So
Wait! What, you're thinking about rowing again?
Tim Kerrison had a crazy idea that he feels like Rowan Dennis and I are very similar body types, and we probably go very well in a double scull together. So, Paris Olympics, you never know.
You never know. So when it's just fascinating because when you go and you go back to Australia and you're training as a pro cyclist again, when you came back after that and got back into your triathlon training, you were running better than ever.
Yeah. Oh man, when I got back to LA, I felt amazing. I went out because I've spent the last few years and generally I've been leading the races until I'm not leading the races,
Right.
So I've really been in quite good control of what's going on. And when I get past on the run, I'm not at a level of running yet where I'm able to react to some of the best runners in the world. I'm obviously improving that, but I'm still not quite there. So I'm largely within myself, all the races. And it was in a bike race, you have to go as fast as the person at the front or the person in front of you. I mean, you can't just let them go and decide to chase them back later. And so you really open yourself up. And it was a big challenge mentally because mentally I say to myself, no, go easy, you'll blow up. But then you realize it's like in the swim. If you get dropped and you lose that wheel or you lose the feet, that gap becomes huge and it's game over. So, you have to suffer. So reminding myself what that pain was really all about has been a huge advantage to the rest of my training, both swimming and running. I just don't feel the fatigue of some higher powered efforts like I have been in the past few years. So that's really, really exciting. Obviously, there's been a bit of a spanner thrown in the works now without any racing going on at all. But I'm really looking forward to whenever it is getting a good block of bike racing in, and then using that in to improve my training for Ironman, and then seeing how that translates into racing. It's really fascinating. I'm quite lucky. I've got a unique, I guess, physiology.
The race at Ironman Italy, and you go, 46:39 for the swim and 4:09:30 for the bike, 2:45:02, 7:46:54. That's like the perfect race. What did you take away from that? Because when you finally put everything together, or all the pieces fit, you got to come away thinking, okay, I get it now. Now I know what the perfect day is.
Yeah, I was disappointed with myself for not realizing how quick I was going and trying to break the world record. I got through the run, and you saw I was certainly within myself, and I think I remember seeing it said I was sort of headed for a 2:45. I just figured my clock was wrong, or I'd started late, or whatever. I didn't believe it. It wasn't until I crossed the line or saw the finish banner that I realized I was actually on 7:46 pace. I mean, it was something that didn't really. I certainly didn't expect. So I mean, I knew I was really fit. I mean, I'd worked really hard. I mean, last year I worked really, really hard on my running. I was very consistent with it. I didn't miss a week of training, from when we started back in January all the way through until, leading into Kona, or leading into that race particularly. And, it was just validation that we're on the right path. And then obviously the swim was great too, but, that was also in a wetsuit. And, when you're in a wetsuit, just being fit, you're rewarded quite a lot, with your swimming by just being fit, because you can just rev, you can just swing your arm over, and you can maintain a high cadence, and that helps you stay, in the pack. So I sort of was happy about my swim, but I knew deep down that was fitness. It wasn't necessarily an indication that I was swimming any better than I had in the past, which obviously in Kona I basically swam like I had the year before. It was incredible. It was just a great day. It was exactly as I planned the race to be. We needed it to be obviously a good test. The plan was to have a great swim and do a good solid bike, do a good half marathon, and then just sort of make sure you don't suffer in the back half. And that was exactly how it panned out. And I was as shocked as anyone else to see the finish time, and obviously particularly the time of my run, because I don't really take any notice of where I'm at during the race. I only take any notice of where my competitors are, and how I feel and what I can do to stay ahead of them or catch them or whatever's required.
So as a guy who's been a pro cyclist for years and years and years, in triathlon, pros have been sort of on their own for a long time. New organization, Pro Triathletes Organization. How important is that for guys like yourself to have to be able to work together to grow the support for the pros?
Yeah, I think it's crucially important. I mean, one of the first things I actually did was spoke to Andrew Messick, about it all, and Andrew said to me that, Cameron, this is a fantastic thing, because what it'll be is one voice. At the moment, and he said you're quite new, and we don't really know you, but you so we haven't really had a chance to even really have much to do with you. You've sort of just bombarded yourself in. But if you ask Daniela Reef, she's going to have completely different, views to perhaps even like a Holly Lawrence, who's also very good, but focuses on half Ironman, or a Jan Frodeno and a Tyler Butterfield. They're probably going to have completely different ideas on what they want. So Andrew said it's been very difficult, when discussing things like, I guess we are referring to prize money and the way what races are pro races, and how they structure the qualifying system for Kona, etc. Because there is such a disparity between the levels of athletes in the professional field. Obviously, that also stems to the resources we have access to. There's group of us that are very fortunate. I mean, I'm obviously one of the very fortunate ones. I have one of the best sporting organizations on the planet behind me, and then obviously I've got the guys at Nike that'll do anything for me. I actually don't want for anything. There isn't a single partner that I wish I was involved with. I'm so fortunate to have been able to choose all of the best people that I always dreamed of working with. And I know that, a few of the other guys are in a similar position, but I realize that's not the same for everyone else. So trying to bring those different opinions into something that's more of the collective good, that gives everyone more of a chance to excel, is a huge step forward for the sport. And the PTO doing that is going to be fantastic going forward. And this little break we've had now, we've missed out on the Collins Cup being put on, which is a shame. But having said that, personally, I think that was all we were sort of maybe rushing a bit to do something like that, especially so left field. This has given them a chance to really take a deep breath, see what else is going on, see what we can do as a unit, and actually also deal with a crisis. And they've been just, I mean, obviously incredibly supportive of the pros with what they did with the year-end bonuses. You know, they basically felt, well, it doesn't look like they'll be racing this year for you guys, not certainly, you know, not for the foreseeable future. And we're going to do what we can to help you guys through that. And that was a huge step in the, you know, in the right direction that none of us saw coming. So it just gives all of us much more faith and belief in the movement, the idea. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what we can do as a group going forward.
So cycling, when I look at cycling, when we talk about our new world order, right, things are obviously going to be different because of the whole virus thing.
Yeah.
Cycling doesn't depend on spectators, right? It's really, you guys are actors for TV when it comes down to it. So how do you see this summer playing out? Are they talking about Tour de France later in the year, then the Giro, and the Vuelta? How do you see the year playing out?
Yeah, I mean that's the plan from the beginning of all this. As soon as it was clear that there was going to be a delay, as soon as there was going to be races cancelled, it was immediately all the teams said we want to do everything we possibly can to have the biggest races. So that starts from the top down. So you know you've got Tour de France, you've got the World Championships, you've got the Giro, you got the Vuelta, you've got those one-day monument classics. You know you've Paris-Roubaix, Tour of Flanders, Milan-San Remo. Lombardia, the Ardennes Classics, and then you've also got like the Dauphiné Libéré, the Tirreno Adriatico, you know, other 1 week stage races, Volta Catalunya, which is close to us here, that are all, you know, big races in their own right, but obviously then slid into that next level. And so that's what they've got planned. I mean, they're going to do everything they can. The great thing about a 3 week race, that's a hell of a lot of racing, you know, and they've got 3 of them that they can put on. Which is a huge amount of racing, and that's a lot of TV. And yeah, the fans are important to the atmosphere while you're out there racing. But as far as which is beautiful, and I don't think that there'll be. I mean, yeah, you obviously get bunches of crowds at certain parts of the course, but on the whole, people are generally pretty spread out when you're racing 100K. So I really don't see that being an issue. They'll be able to handle that, you know, however they handle that. And the viability for the teams, if they don't race, you know, they don't get paid their money to come. You know, organisers have to pay to have the best teams there. You know, the organisations then don't get their TV money because they don't have the best teams there. The TV companies don't want to cover it. And if the aren't covered, then the sponsors that pay to have their name on the jersey, no one sees them. So it's, you know, it is absolutely imperative that bike racing happens to generate revenue for the teams and the sport in general, which not only that, Bob, but it then reaches to the industry, you know, selling bikes, clothing, selling, you know, travel, selling all those sorts of things that are attached to that. And that all really relies on showing off these races in these cities and towns and countries. And, you know, let's face it, at the end of this, all the athletes are going to be pretty excited to race. There's going to be some incredible racing that goes on, you know, with all the build-up energy. So, yeah, they're very bullish about that. They've pushed everything back, you know, as late as they possibly can. I mean, internally, the teams have said they're happy to race until Christmas if they have to get as many of the races in. You know, the latest we've heard, which is an official announcement by the UCI, is that, you know, the tour will be basically held at the beginning of September. That'll finish a week before the World Championships start. Well, the World Championships go for a week, so it actually finishes the day that the first scheduled day, but that could be like the junior road race or the junior time trial or something, so wouldn't be athletes affected from the tour. They'd then race the World Championships the following weekend. Then they'd start the Giro and in October and race that for 3 weeks. And then in November, the Vuelta would do their 3 week race. And then in between that, they'd have the 1 day races here and there. So, yeah, they're pretty ambitious. They're going to get a lot of racing in. And, you know, I believe they can make it happen. I really do. And I think people are going to be pretty excited to see some live sport on TV, to be honest. So, yeah.
So is your team talking about you possibly doing the tour? Well, the tour is September. That would be tough for you with Kona coming.
I mean, the priority is Kona,
Yeah.
for sure. The priority 100% is Kona. I'm pretty fortunate. I've qualified already.
Yeah, by
I'm,
getting that Italy out of the way. That
yeah,
was great.
and I'm married to an American, beautiful wife, Fallon,
Yeah.
and
And you're about to be a daddy.
yeah, she's about to hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes smoothly the next few weeks, and we'll meet our little boy soon. So we're really excited about that. As the travel rules are as they stand at the moment, I can come to America, or we can spend our 14 days in quarantine, whatever, and I can go to Kona. Um, for my peers, it's not a great situation. I mean, no one knows what's happening. I mean, you can't plan to go to a race to qualify. You can't even book a flight at the moment to go to a race to qualify, let alone worry about getting to Kona. And then what happens if you book everything? Can you get your money back? I mean, it's a really tricky situation. The one amazing, wonderful thing about triathlon is it has a huge economic boost to a town.
No question.
And I guess if I would have a choice, which is an unselfish choice, and let's face it, if you look at my projection, or progression, I'm one of the ones that stands to lose the most by Kona not happening. I'm improving, I'm getting better all the time. I'm in, I guess, the peak age, as far as performance goes. There's really no one that wants this race to happen more than me. But if I think about the fairness of everyone, of my fellow athletes, of the safety of everyone, without there being a vaccine, it doesn't really seem overly, fair to be asking people to traverse around the world. And let's face it, Kona without the best athletes having the opportunity to be at their absolute best, it's not a real Kona. So, I think that at the end of the year, if we could have some domestic races going on, I think that'd be a great win for Kona. If Kona could happen, but it'd be a North American race, it would give people in North America the opportunity to race Kona that may have never got to go and experience that before. And to them, it would really be no different. And, for us, I'm based in Europe. We're over here now. I live in Andorra. Someone like, obviously, Jan lives in Girona. Dave McNamee's also there. I mean, for us, something like, Ironman Barcelona could be our objective. I mean, we're all here. We're under the same quarantine laws. Something like that going ahead could be a possibility, or Frankfurt, or Nice, or whatever. But not only that, what that would do is all the top athletes would be able to be at these regional events and help build them up and help make it a really big spectacle and show, and help get those towns back on their feet. Because a lot of these towns, I remember Ironman Wales, the locals telling me how crucial that event was to their town and their economy, and how much everyone looks forward to it every year. So it would be really great to see some racing come back on board, for that, and the more of the top athletes that can help to boost the profile of those local events would be fantastic. And I think Kona, selfishly, obviously, I want it to happen.
Yeah.
And I've got not too much to stress about regarding getting ready for it. I know I can be ready. I know I can be training. I know I can do all that, and I know I can get there. But when I think about a lot of my friends that are not, and colleagues that are in a different position, I think it's going to be a tough one. So, yeah.
Hey, so I'm digging your sweatshirt, man. That's pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah. I got that one. Yeah, this year. That was this year's one. Last year. Yeah, after Kona.
Well, we're hoping.
But on that, I mean, that's the thing. If there is no Kona, yeah, of course, we've spoken about me racing on the bike. So I don't know about the Tour. For me, the one that probably is the most appealing would be the Giro. I'd really love to race that. I mean, that's I raced Ironman Italy last year, and this year it'd be great to be able to race the Giro. So, but we'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe I will end up doing Kona in October, and then I can come back and do the Vuelta in November. So,
and in between, do San Diego Triathlon Challenge on October 18th.
Exactly. I'd have time to fit that one in as well. So, Bob, I'm not afraid of competing. I'm not afraid of competition. I love competing. I love racing, and I'll do whatever is safe. I think, and whatever is deemed to be okay. I certainly don't want to be disrespecting the situation in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, we're ready to support the federations in whatever they choose. But yeah, I just hope that, especially in the form of Kona, that it's fair for all the best athletes, so that we get the show that it deserves. The best people being there at their best to put on the best race.
Love it. Cam, always such a pleasure to get to chat with you. So how much more time before you and Fallon have your little guy?
Well, yeah, he's 3 to 4 weeks away. So he's getting pretty close. So really, he could come anytime. So at this time, obviously everyone is different emotions. But for me personally, I just have to glance over my little wife, my wife and beautiful wife, and look at that belly. And there's not much that gets me down at the moment. I'm pretty excited about everything going on. So as far as in my little household and family, and it's a terrible time, and for the world. But one thing's for sure, we've got to be ready, because when that switch gets turned back on, and as things get rolled back out, it's going to be full gas, and you want to keep up. So and enjoy. It's you don't realize how much you miss stuff until it's taken away from you. I think that's been really wake everyone, and I think we'll all appreciate just being fortunate enough to be on planet Earth more than ever. So really excited about that.
Love it. Cam Wurf has been our guest. Again, this is Breakfast with Bob. We're brought to you by PTO, the Pro Triathletes Organization, by Amp Human, by VeloFix, by Normatec Form Goggles, UCAN, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Cam the man, thanks so much for taking time, but always great to catch up. Give our best to Fallon.
Will do. Thanks, Bob. Always, anytime.
All right. Thanks, everybody.